are these nude beaches that you're going to, or you're just out
No.
there breaking the law?
I don't even know if that's a law here, but if it is, oops. But yeah, I have women naked at like the national park beaches all the time.
You are now listening to the Best in Boudoir podcast.
Please remember, this show is about boudoir photography. Every episode will likely contain descriptions of nudity. The images featured in the video version of this podcast may also contain nudity. None of our shows will be suitable for sensitive listening. In this episode, I talk with Kathleen and MacDonald about becoming the premier studio in the area. All right, welcome to the Best in Boudoir podcast. I'm here with a very special guest, Kathleen of the Guest Room, and we're going to talk photos again. So, Kathleen, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Let's start off with the 10 questions segment, and just please introduce yourself to the people.
All right. Well, I'm Kathleen. I'm 28 years old, and I'm a full-time boudoir photographer. I'm from a tiny little place called Prince Edward Island. It's in Canada. Barely visible on the map, but I grew up here, and then I lived a little bit everywhere for some time and moved back in 2018, and that's when I started my business. I have a full-time studio downtown in my capital, and I kind of supplement my boudoir schedule a little bit with weddings and lifestyle portraits and stuff like that too. But yeah, that's me.
All right, welcome to the Best in Boudoir podcast. I'm here with a very special guest, Kathleen of the Guest Room, and we're going to talk photos again. So, Kathleen, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Let's start off with the 10 questions segment, and just please introduce yourself to the people.
All right. Well, I'm Kathleen. I'm 28 years old, and I'm a full-time boudoir photographer. I'm from a tiny little place called Prince Edward Island. It's in Canada. Barely visible on the map, but I grew up here, and then I lived a little bit everywhere for some time and moved back in 2018, and that's when I started my business. I have a full-time studio downtown in my capital, and I kind of supplement my boudoir schedule a little bit with weddings and lifestyle portraits and stuff like that too. But yeah, that's me.
Boudoir means different things to different people. What does it mean to you?
It means everything to me. For me personally, it's been a tool that I've used to build my own confidence over time. And I think that it's been a really interesting and unique service that I've been able to provide to my community that's been super, super positive. And for my clients, it's really about reclaiming the right to feel good in their own skin. Because I believe that everyone deserves to love themselves and feel good, mind, body, and soul. And I think that boudoir overall can be a tool that everyone can use to realize that. But I think overall it's really about liberation. So I try to provide a fun and unique experience for everyone. It's more than just the photos, in my opinion. I want everyone to feel comfortable and confident when they leave, and I want them to just look back and have butterflies and be excited that they did that once in their life. So really it's just about helping others build their confidence and squashing beauty standards and just feeling good.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get started? What was your journey?
Well, I'm completely self-taught in photography. I think when I was younger, I was out exploring the world, and I was really just trying to fit myself into boxes that weren't really me. I used to work in dental administration for the longest time. And then I moved home to where I am now in 2018. And that's when I met my current partner, who was into photography. And he sort of like passed the torch on to me and taught me how to use a camera. And then I completely ran with it. We shot weddings together at first a lot. We were doing sort of the lifestyle portraits. And then he hit the road because he's a barber and he wanted to do that full time. So then I wanted to create sort of my own vibe with photography, just being my own person. And so I tried boudoir one day at an Airbnb with some of my friends, really, really casual. And it just clicked. I loved it. And I loved that it was unique. And I saw a market in our community because there was really nobody that was doing it full time or even part time. It was some people were dabbling in it slightly, but I just decided to go full throttle. And so I rented a studio part time. I was sharing it with somebody else. And I started building my portfolio on Instagram. And then I got really good feedback from my local community. And that's where all of my business has come from. And so I'm in a province in Canada that is, you can travel to easily from other provinces. So I have lots of people who come from other provinces as well. So the market has grown over time and it's been great. But yeah, completely self-taught.
I was wondering about that. I was like, she has got to have photographed everyone on that island. You have like such a catalog.
I know, it's been a lot of people. Yeah. I think I get to share like about 10% maybe of the people that I photograph because
and that's what I was thinking. I was like, these are just the ones that have like signed up from you. It's amazing the amount of photos.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you have a little bit of a monopoly because, like I said, not many other people do it here. So since I started, I think it's normalized the idea a lot more, and there's been other photographers popping up here and there. But I've been fortunate to kind of get in and
first mover.
Else. So yeah, I've worked with so many people, and
that's amazing. Yeah. So what's one of the things you love about Boudoir?
This is hard. This one's a hard question because I think I love mostly everything. It's definitely my dream job, I think. I was trying to think about this answer, and I think my favorite thing about it is more about me. It's about being self-employed. And I'm an only child, and I'm completely independent, and it sounds weird, but I love being alone. I love working with people, but I also love being alone. So being able to take charge of my own schedule and have time freedom just makes me feel really confident, and it makes me more creative. I don't know how else to put it. I think I struggled when I used to work for people. I struggled with confidence and anxiety and things like that. And then when I went fully on my own, that just disappeared. So that's my favorite thing, I think. And I like being able to just be like, you know what? Screw it. Today I'm going to the beach.
Right, yeah.
And nobody's going to get mad at me for it. I'm just going to go and do what I want. And that's been really healing for me. So that's definitely my favorite thing about it.
Definitely. So where do you find that inspiration for the creativity? Like you said, you can kind of let yourself go. Where do you find your inspiration?
I think I'm really inspired by women, and over time, the more people that I work with, the more I get to see their reactions and the effect that this experience has on them. And every time I get a good response, it's just so inspiring to see essentially somebody opening a whole new door to their life in front of my eyes. I feel like most people come in, and I work with models sometimes, but most of the people I work with are completely new to photography. So even a lot of the people you see on my page or my portfolio are just not models. They're just normal people. And I am so inspired by those people coming in and saying, I think I'm going to be super awkward. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do. And I'm like, just wait. And then they end up absolutely rocking it and feeling so good about themselves and carrying that confidence throughout the rest of their life. That really inspires me and builds momentum.
All right. And so, work is work. So what are some of the things that you hate or annoy you about the job?
Well, contrary to what I said about having time freedom, I feel like a lot of self-employed people feel this way, but I never stop working. So I think I love what I do so much that I end up not having many boundaries with myself. So I have a big workload, and I'm always chasing that feeling of having nothing on the to-do list. So I end up sort of working 100% of the time, like into the night, editing. And there's an undertone of I love it, but at the same time, I'm like, I could be doing some other things right now. So that's probably something I say I would dislike about it.
Right.
I think it's easily fixable if I just set some boundaries for myself, but we're working on that. But yeah, I'm nonstop all the time.
So when you're in work mode, like what is it that you need to do your best work? And that can be anything from like gear to coffee. Like
Yeah. Well, coffee is definitely a big one. I definitely have coffee. Forgot to put that on the list. But I think I work best sort of a little bit under pressure. So I don't plan a whole lot. And when I'm working in my studio, things are pretty consistent in terms of lighting and the environment and everything. So I think that's a plus. But I do kind of like challenging myself here and there because I think that it really helps in this niche. Because I think it's a pretty unpredictable niche. You can never really know what to expect when you're working with clients. You never know how things are going to go. So I think it's really good to be able to problem solve on the fly. But I don't like boxing myself into too much inspiration. Sometimes people bring in inspiration photos and I'm okay with that. But at the same time, when I'm trying to recreate something in a way or use something as inspiration, I find that it kind of inhibits my creativity. I'm like way more creative when I'm just coming up with things on a whim.
Yeah.
So other things I need though is definitely trust from my clients. I think that if my clients trust me and my models trust me, then we always have the best results. Sometimes people come in more nervous than others, but I just always ask them, like put your trust in me and I promise I'll make you look good. And I shoot everything boudoir on a 35mm lens. So that's definitely something that I need. But other than that, I'm pretty minimalistic. Don't need anything else.
Yeah. I think that that's a big thing, right? Is like you said, the trust and having familiar, but still the challenge, create the space to be creative. Yeah,
exactly. And I do most of obviously my boudoir. I do mostly indoors at my studio, and I do have the privilege of having that to be able to. I get to know it really well, my space. And
it's
so
a
I know
beautiful space. Also.
Thank you. Yeah.
So envious.
Yeah, it's my second studio ever. I actually only moved there in September last year, so haven't been there too long. But
congratulations!
I love it. Thank you. It's an attic though, so it's really hot.
Now we are ready for the 5 photo segment. So let's talk about which photos you brought for us. Okay.
Well, like I was saying earlier, this was actually really hard to decide on. I feel like I have hundreds of favorite photos, but the first one that I picked out is actually a really, really recent photo. And I think it's one of my favorites because this model is definitely one of my favorites. She was here for school. She's from Mexico. And when we first shot together, she had never done a photo shoot before. And then I don't know, I've just watched her grow over the last few years and it's been amazing. And she's worked with now almost every photographer on this island. It's amazing. And she's just so good. It's amazing. And so this photo I took on the beach and we did a completely nude shoot, which is totally my vibe. I think there's a few of those in this list. And I just love the tones. I love the vibe. I love the hat. It just makes me feel good. And she actually just left to move to the US. So I felt a little bit nostalgic about this one.
So you said that completely. Oh, well, first you're like launching careers.
Yeah.
And then you said completely nude photos. That's your vibe. Like, can you expand on that a bit? Like, what do you mean?
I think aesthetically, in boudoir, I love just completely nude photos. And I always tell people that sometimes I find it slightly more elegant than lingerie. There's something about nude with body obstruction, and just like nude with an artistic flair that's really, really aesthetic and almost even more shareable than lingerie photos are. So sometimes I see my clients sharing their nude photos more often than they do their lingerie photos.
Yeah.
I find that interesting. And so yeah, in the summer, where we are, summer is really from like June to September, and we have really nice beaches here, and it's kind of iconic. And I take everyone here, or anyone who books a beach session with me, I take them and we do full nude. Usually they do a skinny dip, that kind of thing. And I don't know, it gets a lot of good feedback. So I think a lot of people are like me, liking the full nude stuff.
Yeah. I think that it's like people, and that's a hard thing, like describing nudity in photos. You're like, I think people get a false sense of security or like modesty with lingerie. It's like some lingerie is way more revealing than implied.
It suggests something else. Yeah. Sure.
It's like, and people, it's weird, the categories or the way things are categorized. It's like,
I know. Well, I definitely I always tell my clients that, you know, it's never going to be like, I don't shoot crotch or anything like that. You know, it's not like hello world, here I am, like my full frontal or anything. It's always sort of an artistic. I mean, that's cool if you do that too. Erotica is cool. But I think that there's something really artistic and beautiful about just being natural and naked, and especially when you're in nature, there's something really cool about that. So
right, yeah, that's the same way I feel. It's like, you know, there's a place for all sorts of photos. You know, I'm not shaming any particular types of photos, but
no way.
You know, like I'm not interested in shooting those. It's like, but like you said, there's some sort of elegance, and I think just like I feel like in general, boudoir is about stripping off those layers and revealing the true person beneath all those roles and responsibilities and stuff that people put on themselves. So,
totally, yeah, you know, it is totally about that.
When all that's gone and it's just you, those are kind of the photos that are easier to connect with.
Absolutely, I agree. Couldn't agree more.
So next photo.
Next one. Okay, so this one is also a more recent one that I shot. It's a double exposure. And this model was actually one of my first models ever. So I feel some sort of way about her too. And she actually joined me that time I was telling you about in the Airbnb when I was just wanting to try out boudoir. And those photos were so beautiful and just really helped me build my business. So recently we actually got back together and she came to my new studio and we did a shoot there and it was awesome. And she's just such an open, free-spirited person and so comfortable with nudity. And she's helped me along so much. She probably doesn't know it, but she's done so much for my business, just letting me share her photos and things like that. That was like huge for me. So we wanted to create something that was kind of, you know, nude, but also delicate. And so we thought of doing a double exposure and I freaking love this photo. Yeah. I'm proud of it.
And it's really special when you can like find a model or client that you really connect with and like you said, trust you, and you can experiment and feel a bit, you know, and then like you said, you kind of feel some type of way. It's
yeah. Yeah, I know. It's I mean, like I said, like I share probably 10% of my work. So I'm always so thankful when somebody is super open. And I know we're from a small place here, like it's a small town. You never know who's looking at the page. So a lot of people are just cautious for that reason. And I understand that so deeply. But when I do have the odd person who comes in, they're like, free range, share whatever you want. I'm so thankful.
Yeah, I'm from a small town too, so
Are you?
I
Okay.
completely
You know.
understand that small town vibe. You're like, I don't really want everybody in the business any
No,
more than they already are.
exactly. And you never know who's looking. So
Yeah,
you have to be careful sometimes, but
you run into them at the local store.
yeah, exactly.
All right, so the next photo that you've selected.
Yeah, so the next one is a black and white photo. And this is actually an older one. I think this is from 2019. Um, and this photo is probably when I really started getting more into black and white. And I love color, but I also really, really love black and white. And I love sort of a dark, vintagey, grainy black and white. That's kind of my vibe. Sort of like a cinematic feel. And my favorite part of my old studio was this light that would come in on the wall in the afternoon. And I don't know, there's something just super moody about it. And so I'm close with this model as well, but my favorite part about this is just the simplicity of it. There's like very minimal editing done to this photo. It's just is what it is. And I just feel there's a lot of emotions in it. And it makes me miss my old studio a little bit. But it was time to move on when I did. But yeah, I think I love that because this is one of my favorite like light leak from the window.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about this one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm kind of a sucker for black and white photos too.
Are you?
And especially, just like you, it's like I kind of like a kind of older, grainy, little washed out kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But yeah,
like shadows and things like that. I like shadows, so I think it looks cool. It's very authentic, I think, to what you see in real life.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All righty. Next photo is, why don't you tell us about that one?
Yeah, so the next one, so this photo, I love, okay, so I'm obsessed with the colors in this photo. It's actually, the location is basically in a sand dune. So where I'm from, we're kind of very well known for our sand dunes. It's probably, you're from the US, so
yeah,
you probably know like Montauk, like that vibe in New York. Do you know?
I know nothing.
So anyway, the sand's really white. It's very soft, and it basically, we have these huge sand dunes right on the shoreline. And so last year, this is from last summer, I was taking a lot of clients to the beach, and kind of, instead of using the water, I was starting to challenge myself a little bit more with some different landscapes and things like that. And this little like dune meadow was completely hidden from the rest of the beach. So if there was people on the beach, they would have no idea that I would have fully naked women just frolicking around. And so this is probably my favorite photo I ever took in this dune meadow, that I call it. And I think it's just so beautiful. The model is beautiful. I love her curves, and like a mix between body obstruction and nudity. And yeah, the whole vibe. It's just bang on. I love it.
So I was going to ask that, are these nude beaches that you're going to, or you're just out there breaking the law?
I don't even know if that's a law here, but if it is, oops. But yeah, I have women naked at like the national park beaches all the time, but they're technically closed in the evening, so there's nobody really scouting out looking for people breaking the rules. But it's pretty relaxed here. And
so what you're saying is you're double breaking the rules.
Perhaps. I don't know.
You're going when it's closed.
I'm okay with breaking the rules to get a good shot. But yeah, so the only potential onlooker could maybe be some people who have like cottages or cabins around, that if they have binoculars, they might be able to see. But anytime that I have been or I've encountered anyone who has found us, me with a client, and someone like walks up on us, they always seem to be happy. Happened. It's a story that they can tell forever.
Right.
Yeah. Most of my clients who want to do nude at the beach, and they don't have to,
Right.
if they want to do nude, they're pretty much aware that there's a possibility that somebody could potentially see us. But I always look for places that are mostly secluded. So it's rare that somebody would walk up on us, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Never know. You're taking a chance, but that's half the fun.
You never know.
I don't think no. Yeah, I did have somebody walk up on a couple of
Did you?
a few times. I was like on a hiking trail. Not on the beach. I'm from the South, and so not where I was at before, not a lot of beach around. We were like up on a hiking trail, and it had moved off. And
that's
I guess so somebody had decided that they were also going to go off-roading.
Oh no.
Oh, hi. Carry on.
Avert your eyes.
Nothing to see here.
Yeah. My favorite time that I had somebody walk up on us, it was like a sunrise session. And so it was 5 a.m. And I had a client and she was totally nude. And we were posing on some rocks, and this elderly man who's probably in his 80s was going on his morning stroll, I guess. And he just like comes up over the hill and he was like, oh, and then he just turned and walked away. And I was like, you're welcome.
I'm not supposed to be here.
He just fully accepted that his walk was over at that point.
All right. So last photo.
Yes. So this last photo, it's also at the same beach, actually. And I love this photo because I actually created merch from this photo. It was like a series of 2 photos, kind of like it's her skinny dipping, essentially. And I think I was trying to think of a reason other than I like it aesthetically, but mostly I just love it aesthetically.
Good enough.
I think it's fun and it tells a story, and it's very much just very much my style. Just sort of like grainy and her doing something, getting completely naked, just really encompasses everything that I do. Yeah. And it was like a beautiful night that night. I remember it was like the most perfect weather.
So what merch did you make?
I made tote bags with so it was like this photo and one of her throwing the dress completely off. Mm-hmm. And so on one side of the tote was this photo, and then the other side of the tote was that. And it was kind of like very minimalistic, and yeah, I loved it. And so like all my family members and friends have them and stuff like that. They're just carrying this client around on when they get their groceries and things like that. Completely nude.
That is great. Cool. Great advertising too.
Yeah.
What is that? Where'd you get it?
Exactly.
I'm glad you asked.
But yeah, those are all my favorites.
That's a great tip for the other photographers out there.
Yeah, very true. Make merch with your photos.
Yeah, t-shirts, shopping bags.
Exactly.
All right. So, along the lines of tips, do you have any advice or a message that you would like to impart to other people who are either getting started? Sometimes I ask, like if you could talk to yourself at the beginning, what would be the advice you'd give?
Yeah, for sure. I think the most important thing that if anyone ever comes to me and asks what they should do to get started or what my advice would be, and I think that if you're interested in boudoir, you should definitely come at it with strong ethics in terms of like privacy and consent. do it for the right reasons is always what I say if you're interested in it. Because I think it's really impossible to succeed in this niche otherwise. So I think a lot of people can get discouraged. And we were talking about this before, but you can get discouraged when you don't get to share all of your work. Because as photographers, that's how we get clients and things like that. But there's ways around it. And sometimes you have to sacrifice a little bit more time to work with models and ambassadors and things like that so that you can have work that you can demonstrate. One thing that I do with my clients, and I'm sure lots of other boudoir photographers do as well, but I always have an optional model release for my clients when they book a session with me. And even if they sign it, if they think that they're going to be completely comfortable with me sharing their photos, they still get to pick which ones. And that way we have we're always on the same page. And then if somebody ever said to me, you know, I don't feel comfortable anymore for whatever reason, I always delete it. So I always go with the ethics of the client is in control in terms of what's on my page. And I think that's been really positive for me because people feel really safe with me and they just feel more confident about letting me share things because they know that they're in control. But yeah, that's probably my best advice. Have a model release, regardless of who it is. Have a contract. Super important. And also, I think don't save your best work for your models. So even if you know that you're not going to be sharing the photos that you're taking, come at everything with the same amount of energy and expertise and creativity and give everyone the same experience. And then that will pay going forward. Because word of mouth is like the best marketing, in my opinion.
Yeah. Almost kind of the only or limited marketing avenues is boudoir.
Yeah, exactly.
They kind of shut you down for a lot of.
Oh yeah. It's really hard. I tried to get onto TikTok, do videos and things like that, but every video just gets removed. Okay, so that's not for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to be pretty creative about your marketing too.
Yeah. It's
unfortunate.
It's been a struggle.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the last question of the first segment is just where can people see more of your work, or is there anything you'd like to promote or let people know about?
Well, I mostly use Instagram as my full-time portfolio, so they can follow me on my studio page. It's the Guest Room PEI, short for Prince Edward Island. And yeah, I tried TikTok, didn't work. So I've been trying to get into Reels a little bit. So I am going to be trying with some video content coming up, putting together behind the scenes and things like that. And I find that that really helps people feel comfortable about coming to see me. I also have a website if you don't have Instagram, www.theguestroomsessions.com. And that's pretty much it.
Okay.
That's where you can find me. I am strictly like Instagram girl.
Instagram. Gotcha.
Streamlined.
Hey there, it's me again. I hope you're enjoying the show. If you are, please be sure to like, subscribe, and rate the show on whatever platform you're using. As a brand new show, your support is critical to our success. At this point, I'd like to thank our sponsors. Unfortunately, we don't have any yet. If you represent a business and would like to help our community of photographers, models, and clients discover your products or services, please contact me at admin@bestinboudoir.com. Okay, let's get back to the discussion. Okay, and so that wraps the 10 question segment. And now we're into free discussion. So is there anything in particular you wanted to talk about?
Not necessarily. I mean, something that's new for me is I just introduced couple sessions. I don't know if you do couples.
Trying to also, I've had trouble booking, I get people who are half the couple's interested.
Oh gosh, yeah. There needs to be full consent.
Yeah. And then trying to get even demo, it's like finding model couples or, models that want to work together.
Right. Exactly. I've worked with mostly women just because I feel like for posing, that's my comfort zone. So, I've had lots of requests over the years to do couples, and I was just always a little bit unsure if I would do well with couples. I wasn't sure about how I would pose people. But then recently I actually started getting into it, and it's way easier than I ever would have thought it was. It's like everything just unfolds and happens before your eyes, and it's like, oh, so I don't actually have to do all that much. It's great. So yeah, I think it's been super successful, but here it's would be the same. So it's hard to find people, especially a couple, who would be comfortable with their work or their photos being shared on the page, because there would definitely be opinions shared about it. So somebody's mom's mom will see it or something like that. But yeah, my first couple ever was a lesbian couple, and it was absolutely incredible. And I was very fortunate. They were cool with me sharing a few of the photos, and it got some really good feedback. And ever since then, I've had lots of requests. So I think it just takes somebody seeing it as a possibility, and then putting themselves in that category and being like, you know what, we could do that too.
So you said that you primarily shoot women. Was that like a policy, or those are just who comes through the door?
I would say it's mostly who comes through the door. I think just for my own, since I'm a one-woman show, I think I just felt mostly comfortable with shooting women because I developed my whole brand and posing repertoire and everything around women. But for the most part, I don't get a whole lot of requests from men. There's some other photographers who are male in my community who personally I feel like would do a much better job with men. But I do plan to eventually get into that. Probably if I had sort of like maybe somebody else on my team and things like that, I would probably start getting into some other areas of boudoir, just like I'm doing couples now. But yeah, it's just mostly women because that's who I think I attract for the most part. Like the vibe of my studio is very feminine and kind of like neutral and things like that. So that's, I think, where that goes.
I think your studio is very beautiful. It's
thank you.
I saw a couple of videos of you decorating and designing it. Did you styled the whole thing yourself, right?
I did, yeah. And it's mostly, I'm very minimal. Like I like things to be super neutral and minimal backgrounds and things like that, because I think that it makes for the subject being the most interesting part of the photo. And I shoot, I'm not in dark and moody. I don't really consider myself light and airy either. It's kind of somewhere in between, but you can see the background essentially. So I like it to be pretty minimal. So yeah, just kind of went with a color palette. I do a lot of like secondhand thrifting, that kind of thing, to go with a sort of, it's kind of like a thrifty classic vibe in there. I don't know. Very like delicate fabrics and neutral tones and things like that. But yeah, completely just styled it on my own. All the time.
Like it looks amazing. I'm like, what kind of art film does she live in? It's like everything like goes together. Everything's like, like you said, it's not like light and airy. It's just like classic and nice and
yeah. I want it to look like what you see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I used the 35 millimeter lens, I find is like a representation of what I see with my own eyes kind of thing. So lots of background. I like that. So I kind of go with that in my tones and colors as well, and try to share pretty much exactly what I'm seeing through the lens.
Mm-hmm. So we can do a bit of gear talk too. Like, so you shoot with the 35. What system do you use?
So I use the Canon 5D Mark IV. That is my go-to, but I started with the Mark II, and honestly, like I loved that camera. I thought that camera was like, but upgraded to the Mark IV, and I love it. I don't think I would stray at all for a while. But other than that, I shoot with almost all natural light. So I have lots of windows, as you know, at the studio. So I fill a little bit of the back studio, but other than that, yeah, I'm all natural light.
And it's
with my other work and stuff, it's like natural light all the way.
okay. So even on the beach, it's just you.
Even on the beach.
Yeah, right. And 35 all the time. You switch out.
I'm pretty much, it'd be rare if I switched out. If I was doing a wedding or something like that, I'd be using a 70 to 200, but it's mostly 35. I'm so minimalistic. I don't like to have like a whole bag of gear or anything. I just like to show up and shoot the photos. No fuss.
And you said you do a couple of weddings. How much of your business is non-boudoir?
I separate my business. So the guest room would be, I guess, my full time. I would consider that my full time. And then our wedding season here is really only during the summer. So it's from June to September, October-ish. And this year I originally had 22 weddings.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And it moved down to 13, which is a lot more comfortable. But I think my most comfortable point would be like 5 to 10. So it's a lot.
You're a little ways off from 5.
Yeah. So it just with COVID and everything, a lot of things got rescheduled and put into all the same year. So a little bit of chaos for a while, but comfort zone would be like 5 to 10 weddings, but just never know what's going to happen. But I've been able to create a schedule where I can shoot most of my boudoir on the weekdays. So Monday to Friday, and then Saturdays would be weddings, sometimes Friday in the summer. And then otherwise I get my weekends off, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how did the pandemic affect your business? Did the question that I like asking is, did you get any unexpected gifts out of the pandemic?
Mm-hmm. You know what? I think I really did. And I don't know, maybe other photographers feel this way too, but we were really fortunate here because we didn't get a whole lot of COVID here. I think overall we had like 200 cases over the whole span of the pandemic. And now most people are vaccinated, so things are opening up and everything. It's pretty normal. But I think the best thing that came from it for me was just like the ability to book people on days that weren't the weekend. I don't know, like people's schedules changed. And so now everyone works from home, or I don't know, they changed their life, got a new job, things like that. And it seemed like people were looking for escapes and things to do that were not going out to a restaurant or, the usual feel good adventures. People couldn't do those anymore. So then they were looking for things that they could do. And that ended up being me. So my business actually skyrocketed during the pandemic. And I feel like not a lot of people can say that. So I do feel really fortunate. But what about you? How did it affect you?
I took it all mostly off. I was actually the pandemic. I was a part-time shooter for most of the time. And so during the pandemic is when I just kind of decided to revamp what my offering, kind of really buckle down and get serious and try and make a go of it full time. So it's been, it gave me, I guess, the time to really launch, and then working on various other businesses and turning the feature accounts from just the posting to thinking about what I wanted to do with them, like the podcast, maybe some other expansions I'm mulling over, but
it gave you the time. That's good.
Yeah, time is really the big win for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like there is definitely silver linings about it. You know what I mean? It's definitely we're all still kind of hurting from it, but there's definitely some silver linings. Time to reflect was a good thing too.
Yeah. So another thing I wanted to ask about was you label your studio intimate portraits, which was a move I made also.
Okay.
Instead of using boudoir.
hmm
Why do you go with that?
I think it's twofold. First thing, when I first started out and I was posting often on Instagram, I was like shadow banned immediately. So I tried using hashtags and things like that right when I started, and that's before Instagram was really starting to crack down. And then all of a sudden, I became almost undiscoverable. And then I was like, oh, maybe I can't use that word. Because I think my handle used to be the guest room boudoir. I'm pretty sure that's how I started. And then just reading about other people's experiences, I learned that it was probably not a good idea to do that because then Instagram, the algorithm will flag you more often if you have the word boudoir anywhere. So I kind of adopted the, I don't know, just the ability to not say it. Still saying it, but not saying the word. And then I also think that intimate portraits is sort of a better way to describe my style because I'm definitely not traditional, I guess. Like I'm not glamour, boudoir, not all of my clients get their hair and makeup done. Like it's more, I don't know, it's more natural. So I just feel like intimate portraits really just describes me a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel kind of the same way as that people have a lot of preconceived notions about what boudoir is, which is also why I asked that question. Um, and I switched to intimate portraits is because I felt like, I'm not limited to, like you said, a classical look or glam.
Yeah.
It's like some of my photos, people they're kind of moody or melancholy. It's like it's not sexy glamour, or whatever comes to mind.
Photo of somebody, it's not a photo of a something. So
and so it's just a portrait of you as close to the real you as hopefully we can get.
Totally.
And so how often do you shoot? We had mentioned that you stay pretty busy, 22 weddings, and then like everybody in the area. So
well, I mean, I'm pretty much just every week booked out. I have a comfort zone, but this time of year is just the busy season and more people want their photos taken when the weather's nice. That's just how it goes. And so like usually see, between 4 to 6 clients a week. And then in the winter, which is November to April-ish, we have a long winter here. That's when it's like a little bit less busy, but then during the holiday season in December, there's an influx of people. So I'd be seeing more like 4 to 6 clients a week again around that time. And then kind of in the slow season, it's probably more like 3 to 4 a week. It just depends. I don't know. It seems like I think I'm fortunate. I do see a lot of people and I try to book myself conveniently for like according to my preferences. So I usually would do like maximum 2 a day kind of thing. And then I try to get days where I have fully that whole day off so that I can edit and do admin work and everything. I feel like the admin work is what takes the most time for me. Sending out contracts and emails and things like that. Oh my gosh. Just
how much editing do you do? Are you like a heavy editor?
In terms of, I mean, I have specific presets that I've made myself for my work. So that makes things pretty streamlined. And I do retouch things lightly. So I have some ethics surrounding that. But I work completely in Lightroom unless absolutely necessary going to Photoshop. I retouch in Lightroom with the brush tool and the spot removal. Just kind of temporary skin irregularities like bruises, blemishes, scratches, things like that I do remove. And then smooth the skin a little bit, and then we go on our way. That's all I do. But like stretch marks, cellulite, that kind of thing, I don't remove, because I think, especially for women, that's kind of an unattainable beauty standard. And I think that we should celebrate things like that as opposed to removing them. So I make that really clear when people book with me that I won't be removing those things.
Yeah, and sometimes we're like, can you remove? Oh, like, well, we're not doing like digital surgery on your
Yeah,
photos.
I know. No changing body proportions, just good posing, good lighting,
Yeah.
good editing, light editing.
And so and then you also, I saw on your site that you have like I think you referred to it as a famous posing flow.
Did I say famous?
I might have added famous, but
yeah, I think over time I've developed sort of a repertoire, I would say, of posing that I know works for pretty much everyone. So in a standard session where someone was coming in and it's their first time seeing me, and they're new to photography, they would get sort of my standard repertoire. And then the odd time I will take sort of I'll have an energy exchange. If it's positive with my clients, that will inspire me. And then sometimes we can go a little rogue and do things that are new, that are just coming up in my head if they're super open to it. But I do have sort of a very natural posing flow that everyone goes through. And for a standard session, it's probably like 25 poses. Yeah. And then, so it's never anything, there's no body contortions really. There's just lots of back arching and stretching.
Always back arching.
Yeah. They look a little sore, but it's all in good fun.
So, and that was the other thing. Is like, I noticed that you said you had levels to it. There's the basic one, and you're like, if you book again, maybe you get level 2.
Yeah. So yeah, if somebody books again, which does happen from time to time, sometimes people come in and they just get addicted to it, which I love. And so beyond, I have lots of poses in here, but I stick to, the standard 25. And depending, I have different packages and things like that, and different sets and things at my studio. And so if you're booking a larger package the second time, you get to do more things. Like I have a tub and I have a fake shower, and then there's the beach. And I have a whole other repertoire for the beach. It's like completely different. I use like logs and things that are naturally occurring in nature as opposed to a bed. But yeah, so they get the standard 25, and then if they book again, we'll go a little bit beyond that and try some things that are maybe a little bit more out there if they're willing.
And the paint sessions.
Yeah, they're super fun.
Yeah.
And I actually started that with, in my favorite photos, the first model, her first ever session was the first time we did the painting. First time I ever did the painting too. And it was just like, went off without a hitch. And so most people who come in for that have either done a session with me before, and that's like their second visit or their third visit or something. Or they're just looking for something like super fun and creative. They're totally comfortable with nudity. But I find that most of the time when they're covered with paint, they don't feel as naked as you think they do, because it's like paint acts as like clothing in a way.
And apparently another one of those weird like nudity rules, Instagram doesn't count or counts paint as clothing.
No, yeah, painted nipple is okay.
Yeah. Straightest thing. There's one photographer had put, I think it was some sort of, was it just like chocolate and an Instagram let it go. I was like, how's that work?
It was just chocolate covering. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the bots detect too much skin and they're like, oh, that's a female nipple.
Yeah.
That can't fly.
I've had photos flagged that it was just like the model wasn't even facing the camera. It's like, there's clearly not a nipple. That's her back.
Oh yeah. I heard that was a new thing. I think they introduced that in January or something. Might have been last year. I don't know.
I think it is like a bot that's just
It's like, oh, at the butt.
matching for skin color and a percentage of the image. How
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do notice that there's definitely more, the bot definitely recognizes nudity more when it's a plus size woman, which is like completely terrible. I don't know if you noticed that, but it's like, I don't know what it is, but bigger breasts, bigger butt. I'm not sure. It's just like, no, you absolutely cannot post that. And I always know, because like sometimes things get removed. I think if they get removed later, somebody reported it.
Mm-hmm.
But if it gets removed immediately when I post it, then it's the bot.
Yeah.
That's how I know. And it's sad sometimes. I'm like, I like this one.
Yeah. That's been my experience too. You're like, oh, well, that one goes. Yeah, and I think it, like you said, it has, and I think that's why, plus size women get, and people get hit harder, is because I think it is doing some sort of percentage of like surface area. There's some threshold that you go over, you're flagged.
I know. I just like, I wish that Instagram would just let the kids go over to TikTok and then allow the adults to stay here on Instagram.
I mean, how hard is it to put like an adult content?
I know there isn't.
It's like, just let people opt out.
Yeah, exactly. And there is a feature now on Instagram on a business page where you can make it so it's 18 plus.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that. And I've changed that on mine recently.
I did also.
Yeah, and I didn't notice any change in my like followers or anything. I was like, okay, so I guess we're good.
Yeah. I think it did help, like, because like you were saying earlier, before I was, virtually shadow banned. Hashtags, I'm excluded from all of them, so I don't use them anymore.
Can't even hashtag like happy, like you're not showing up.
not showing up for anything. That was actually one of those fun benefits of getting the account deleted, was that now I'm not banned anymore.
There you go.
It's a new account. But yeah, so I could use them, but I'm not going to, risk the ire again.
Before you got deleted, did you have warnings, or was it just like gone?
No, it was just gone.
Wow.
I would get the notices, like you said, the content warnings where they take them down. I was getting about one a day. Okay. I knew exactly which photos would get banned. My posting schedule was 3 a day, and I would schedule it for the last posting so that I'd have time to, deal with it.
Yeah.
And so, like, I knew which ones were going to get hit. I would get hit, and then I'd appeal the decision, and like 98% of the time they would say, yeah, we made a mistake, and repost it. But
right. Yeah. I've had a few of those. Like, I've gotten lucky a few times with that, but sometimes it's just like, nope, can't have that butt on here.
Yeah, almost every time.
Yeah.
Which was why it was particularly upsetting when they finally did delete it. I was like, but all these strikes against me, you appealed. So, oh well.
And nobody at Instagram cares. You can't get hold of anyone.
No.
It just is what it is.
Yeah, I wish there was a better sharing platform.
Oh, I know.
It's hard.
It's scary even thinking about that. Like, did you see how now Instagram they put out a video the other day, and now it's going to be like a primarily video sharing app. Did you see that?
Yeah, he's like, we're not a photo sharing service anymore.
Oh yeah. Right. Good thing I'm starting to do reels, because otherwise,
yeah,
I would have been a little stressed, as most photographers probably are.
Yeah. How has the adding video and stuff? I saw that you do post a good number of videos.
Yeah, I think it's good mixing it up. Like, and I actually have a lot of fun creating those little videos, and I just shoot them on my iPhone, and then put them together in Splice. And I think that's super fun, and I think people respond really well to it. And it took a long time for reels to come up, but I think that it's it is going to gain a lot of traction on Instagram. I think people are going to be looking for video content going forward. So it's probably a good move on their part. But yeah, I think it's fun. So I really do want to get into maybe adding in some boudoir video sometime in the future. And I might do it as simply as adding in like a real length iPhone video into your package. So you can share that with somebody or your friends and things like that, or just yourself, who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see, because I enjoy it. So
yeah, I think that well, with the podcast and stuff, I've had to pick up a lot of video editing, and so I'm starting to dabble a bit more in the video also.
Yeah. And do you like it?
Yeah, I've found that it's like you said, it wasn't as challenging as I thought it was going to be. I'm kind of learning. It's it's another skill set, but it's similar. So I didn't find it too off-putting.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to get into with boudoir, because I feel like it's really enticing for some people to have that option. I think not many people do it, so you have to be good at it. But I think it's being part of the niche.
And so what do you do for advertising? Like you said, you kind of had the market cornered. Did you find that you didn't need to advertise a lot? Or?
Not really. Like I think word of mouth is my best advertiser for sure. You probably know, like when you're in a small town and people talk about you, that's where people learn about where to go. It's like the credibility comes from someone did it. So I think that I really didn't have, once the momentum of word of mouth started and I had seen over 100 people, and then that just like, it's like an MLM or something, like it just capacity, you recruit someone, you recruit someone, you recruit someone. And then I don't have to do anything anymore, really. Just post my content on Instagram, post a reel here and there. But when I first started out, I did dabble in Facebook ads. So I would pay for, this is when it was a lot cheaper. Now it's really expensive. But I would find like the most modest photos I could find that would still attract people, because it took a long time to find one that was approved. And I would market to certain people. Sometimes I would market to younger people. Sometimes I would market to brides, that kind of thing. And I'm not really sure how well that did for me. I really don't know if that helped me or not. Sometimes I get a few bookings through Facebook, but I don't really use Facebook all that often. So I think word of mouth was really my greatest achievement in terms of marketing. Instagram did everything for me.
Is that where people say they found you, or is it, like you said, the word of mouth?
No, I'd say like if somebody finds me, they found me on Instagram. I would say like somebody shared the photo, or I think a lot of people share them in DMs and things like that. So they might find my page that way. I've done a few giveaways in the past that has bulked up my follower base, I would say. And it just kind of gets people acquainted with your page, that you exist. And other than that, sometimes people say Google, but I think that's pretty rare. Most people find stuff, like if you're searching for a business or something, I feel like even I go on Instagram first and see if I can find something before I go to Google. Might just be me. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I think most people do. What is there anything that like you wish, not necessarily advertising, but just anything that you wish you had kind of started doing sooner that you do now?
I think like I used to be really stuck on my feed scheme. Do you know what I mean? On Instagram.
Yes, I know exactly.
So I used to when I first started, I wanted to do something kind of unique. And to me, this was unique. And I posted 3 photos at once of all the same client or model, because I liked how it sort of told the story of their session. And that's what I was going for, kind of like intimate storytelling, that kind of thing. And I used to be so I don't know, I think bogged down by that need to post those 3 photos because they had to be like 3 perfectly cohesive photos. So then if a client was comfortable with 2 of their photos being shared, I'd only have 2 photos and then I couldn't share any of them. So I think that, and then I changed it to, now it's still a scheme, but it like, I have so much more, I feel freedom for what I can post, and I'm not as hooked on that scheme. And I think I just wish I had done that sooner because I would have been able to share so much more of my work than I actually did back then. So don't get bogged down by that. That's an advice. Piece of advice.
Do you dip into your archives? Like, I know you're shooting quite often, but do you sometimes revisit photos and
sometimes, yeah. Like sometimes I will go into and post some stuff from like old beach content or sometimes my old studio, but I do try to limit that because then I don't want to advertise a space that I don't have anymore. And I think like my other space had like a little bit of a different vibe. Like it was super, super bright and white and like, it had like cool light on the wall and things like that. And I have a beautiful and bright space now, but it has a little bit more of a moodier vibe to it. So my output has changed a little bit. So I try not to post anything too often of the old space, just so that I don't know, it's not false advertising of what you'll get if you book a session. But there's some photos that I took right out the gate, like are some of my favorites. Like I look back, I'm like, damn, that was good. And that was just like on a whim. Now I feel like I have so much more experience, but like some of my earlier stuff is my favorite. It's funny.
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. There are photos in my portfolio from like the first, and I think most of the photographers I've talked to said that they keep some of those first ones that, you know, it really worked or, you know, have some sort of sentimental value.
Yeah. There's definitely a sentimental, like nostalgic feeling that's associated with that. So you're like, you remember how like nervous and stressed you were. Now you're confident and experienced.
So one other thing I noticed in your bio on your website, you mentioned that you lived in the Arctic for a time.
Yeah.
I'm incredibly curious. I've lived in the South my entire life, so
okay.
Anything below 70 degrees is cold to me. I can't imagine living in.
I go by Celsius, so I don't even know what that is. But I did live in the Arctic for a little while. I lived in it's a territory in Canada. It's called Nunavut. So most of Canada, like the landmass, is Arctic, but most of the people live in the part that's not. But we have there. I think there's quite a few communities in Nunavut, and I lived in sort of the biggest one. It's like the capital. It's called Iqaluit, and I lived there for 3 years. I said earlier I used to work in dental administration, so that's what I did there. I worked in a dental clinic, and it was a really, really cool experience. It's like a cultural experience as well. There's a strong Inuit base in Iqaluit, so it was really, really good for me as a person, and I learned so much living there. And it's also a really cool landscape. It's like being on the moon. So there's no trees. There's just rocks and snow and blizzards and polar bears.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Like,
and you would be very shocked of how cold it is.
Yeah. 7 degrees is 21 Celsius is what.
Okay. Yeah. I don't even know if you could live here then.
No, probably not.
If you're used to 21 degrees, that's like, it's around 21 degrees in the summer here. It's like 21 to 30 degrees Celsius here in the summer. And then in the winter in PEI, it gets down to like minus 25. And then in the Arctic, the minus like 60 was the coldest that I experienced.
Yeah, 21 degrees Celsius is jacket weather for me. I'm like, I need to start covering up. I
so hot when it's 21 degrees.
I can't imagine. Like, you're describing it, and it means I just, like you said, it might as well be the moon.
Yeah, it like hurts to breathe, kind of thing. That's what
wow.
it's like. But it's really beautiful, and there's so much culture, and it's like it's so unique. So it was a really good experience. I'm glad I went.
Mhm.
And I didn't even have internet when I was there, so for a full year. So it was good for me. I did a lot of puzzles. Yeah.
Well, I can imagine. A lot of indoor activities. So talking about, like you said, the community and diversity, that was one thing I thought about whenever I was looking at your photos. Like I said, I felt like you clearly photographed everyone in your area. And there's like, because your portfolio is like such a wide range of women. Like, there's
I'm glad you think that. Yeah.
Body types and types of women, and how has that worked? And then I noticed that you had wrote a message about increasing the diversity on your page, and how has that been?
But yeah, in terms of diversifying my page, I think what's been challenging about it is finding people who are willing to model for me, kind of like full throttle model. So I find, if I was photographing a plus size woman, she ends up being less likely to let me use her photos than somebody who is thinner. And so what I'm going to start introducing, because it stresses me out not being able to find or be as diverse as I'd like to be on my page. So what I'm going to be doing, this is what I was saying before, is I'm going to be offering sort of like a paid promotional position going forward for anyone really who wants to model for me, and especially for groups of people who are currently featured less on my page. So kind of like an ambassador position, sort of like you model for me and I pay you sort of thing. And before I wasn't able to do that, just financially, it just wasn't an option for me. But before I was just doing sort of trade work with models, or just hoping that people would let me share their photos. You get a lot of disappointment that way. So yeah, that's something that I'm going to be hopefully introducing in 2021, and then we can move forward with showing all types of people across the board.
That's really interesting program. Did just what you thought of, or did you see that somewhere? Or?
I think I was inspired by another photographer at one point. Like, I think this was a while back. I saw her do that, and I was like, "That's a really good idea," because then you're paying people for their work, and there's essentially an agreement made with you in advance, and it's and then it's supporting other people in their modeling career and things like that, or maybe launching people into a modeling career, which is sort of giving back to the community as well. So, and I think here where I am, it's so small, and it's not common for there to be professional models, like other than people who do like OnlyFans and things like that. That's really the only models that there'd be no one that really full-time models here professionally. So it's really just everyday people. So I'm looking to kind of introduce that sometime this year.
And so in the past, where did you find your, like you said, you had to find some models just to see the portfolio? Like,
a lot of people find me, I would say, like there's people who I would mutually follow on Instagram, and then we would engage with each other over time and build a little bit of a connection. And then either they reach out to me or I reach out to them to see if they'd be interested in modeling for me. And a lot of the time, people are more comfortable with the idea of bathing suit, beach. They'd be more comfortable with that than like the studio boudoir, because that's just a little bit more out there, I guess. But sometimes I'll be at a restaurant and my server will be really beautiful, and I'll ask her if she whatever model for me. And that has worked in the past too. And I just show them my page and say, yeah, just reach out to me if you'd be interested. And that's worked. But most of the time it's through social media that I would meet people.
Yeah.
You notice that most people in Boudoir, or most people that I follow anyway, photograph in the dark and moody style. I don't know if you noticed that. Like, it's super common.
I think that's I think that's that do more photographers or
You saw that whole scandal. Did you?
I did see that. But I think that like during the pre-scandal,
the era.
it was a I mean they had kind of a look that I think that I don't know if they like encourage. I think that they encouraged it.
And they inspired probably at their workshops, things like that for sure.
You know, and I like some of them. I think that also it's a from a technical, well, not technically, but like from a boudoir kind of marketing sense, I'd imagine that it also helps in like
definitely a lot less work to do editing-wise.
Well, there's room to hide for your clients, right? You're like,
exactly.
It's revealing, but it's also not super revealing. You have a lot of, silhouette. I'm a big fan of silhouettes, and it's like it's nude, but it's not nude, and so
totally.
I guess it's the comfort of being in the shadows.
Oh yeah, for sure. When I do my black and white, I'm like, wow, one click, done. So probably what it's like if you have a good preset for dark and moody and you just like have your lighting on point, like it's probably the same thing. Mostly just a one click with a little retouching. Probably makes your workflow a lot easier than with your full color like me.
I think so. I enjoy it too. I don't shoot that way either. It's
there's something I love about both, I think. But I gravitate to sort of like showing the full picture of what's happening.
Yeah. My tastes are really all over the map, which you can probably see in the photos I choose. Like,
yeah, for sure.
And at this point, I've seen so many boudoir photos of all sorts of types, and like, but I'm still surprised every day. I'll see something. I'm like, oh wow, it's either a new angle or a new, not usually new concepts, but like new mixes on them, and and so it's. And that's another thing, like, that people kind of dismiss about boudoir. They think it's all the same or repetitive. Like this, it's so like from like even classic pinup style to like
oh god, there's so many angles you can take.
Yeah, the super artistic like outdoor shots. There's just so much there.
Yeah, and the body is just art. So it's like there's so many ways that you can photograph it. It's amazing. Yeah.
Is there anything that you like want to try more of, or?
I would say I mentioned it earlier, but I definitely want to get into video. That's something that is on my mind, and I feel like there's like some sort of like magnet pulling me towards that. So I'm going to allow myself just to kind of go down that path, ride that wave at some point. But I don't know. I think I want to start talking about like artistic outdoor boudoir. I think I want to start exploring maybe some other landscapes. So I'm usually at the beach, which is common here because that's mostly what we have. But I think I like that idea of like being on a trail in the woods. I think I want to start maybe exploring more landscapes, more tones, and things like that as my background. I've been thinking about that now this past summer. But I'm just so comfortable with the beach.
Right.
So I'm like easy to meet my clients there, and to kind of guarantee those spots where there's not going to be anybody around and that kind of thing. So I take comfort in that. But yeah, I think I want to explore some more landscape. What about you?
Both. Like, video is a big thing for me, and like I don't shoot outdoors. Like, and also I've been thinking, like, it was always incongruent to me. Like, I was like, why? What's going on? How'd this person get here? It's like, why are they in the woods in their underwear? What happened? And but you know, I also, I've just, as I've been looking, there are a lot of, I mean, and in some ways that's the point, is that it is incongruous, and
like juxtaposition.
yeah. I think my appreciation has grown. I think I want to give that a go. I have in my head double exposures, like seeing the one you picked. I've tried them. They just never seem to work for me. And so I still have that in my head. And bodyscapes. Like I said, I'm a big fan of silhouettes. And so just like light and shadow work. I'm always interested in exploring more.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I used to be, when I first started out, I was like obsessed with not doing any close-up body parts. Like I just really wanted to do like the full frame body in all the photos.
Yeah.
I thought that looked more storytelling at the time, but now I'm obsessed with close-up body parts. So it's funny how much you change over time. So almost like most of what I post now is that. So and then also that type of stuff is more postable because people pick that as their shareable. So because their face isn't in it. So then I open myself up to being able to share more when I don't just have photos of people looking at the camera or their full face being in it.
That was a thing I had to do too. It's like I avoided body part photos too, because I didn't want to, especially as a male photographer, segment women and be too or fall into that point of focusing too much. Anyway, it's like I want this to be about people and connecting with the whole person. And I think that over time I've relaxed on that a bit, but I still
you become more confident too, probably, and you're able to still provide an experience that's comfortable in those kind of photos, for sure. It's a learning experience.
And like you said, I think some of it's taste and some of it's experience, and like with trying new things, you have the things that you know work, and there's always that pressure of delivering for your clients. You don't want to be like, well, we're gonna try some stuff today. Who knows what kind of photos you're gonna get back?
Yes, exactly. They want to feel like you're in control and you know what you're doing, kind of thing.
Yeah, and you want to have something to give them at the end that you know is gonna be good. You're like,
exactly.
You're like, I'm pretty sure this will work. Like, and that's like you said, an ambassador program I've been lucky enough to have a couple models that I've worked with several times, and you get to that point where you feel comfortable enough to, we're going to try some stuff. So like, there may be no usable images at the end of this.
This is an experiment.
So hopefully it's going to go either really well or really bad. We'll find out.
Do you find people in your community, like you said, you're from a small town or small place, do you find like people in your community are super open to boudoir? Are people kind of closed off about it? Are there religious undertones that are present, or?
I'm not there now. I grew up in a small town, and now I live in Houston, which is
Oh,
a
okay. Oh, yeah.
huge
Huge.
city. Yeah. And it is, but still, I think Boudoir, because like we said before, it just has either preconceived notions. People just have opinions, like about either what it is or that it's not hard photography or that it's simple or that, it's, and I feel like that is generally the issues I run into are just people don't think that they want to do boudoir,
Right.
more so than uh, because, of whatever association they have with
Yeah. There's reservations that are just built in,
it. Yeah.
like automatic responses kind of thing. Yeah. I think it was like that too here for a long time. Like when I first told my family what I was doing, like my mom's side of the family, totally cool. But my dad's side of the family still doesn't really acknowledge it. They think I'm like a pornographer or something.
Yeah.
They have sort of a really strong Christian background. So to them, this is something that's very out there. So they would rather just ignore the fact that I do that. And then they only talk to me about my wedding photography. But I'm super open. Like I am super open and sex positive and everything. So
Yeah.
It's interesting when the conversations happen.
Yeah. And do you find like there's a crossover for your clients with the wedding work and your boudoir work?
A little bit, yeah, for sure. I'd say probably about 50% of my wedding clients also come to me. Like they think about maybe boudoir being a gift that they can give on their wedding day to their spouse. And then other people's brides to other photographers in the community will send their brides to me as well. So there's definitely a crossover there. Lots of brides, but also lots of just individuals. Like I have so many people that come in to just do it for themselves, which I love.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite purpose. I think that's the best purpose for sure.
That's also because I've been adamant my entire photography career. That's one thing I've never really been interested in doing is shooting weddings. And so, but again, boudoir also has a lot of, significant other gift connotations to it. And I think getting people to think outside of that box has been another issue for me personally. But yeah, that doing it for yourself and just the process and the creative expression.
Yeah, I always say too, when people come in and they're like, I'm doing this as a gift for somebody else, I like to let them know that it's probably going to end up being more of a gift for them anyway.
Yeah.
Because when it's a photo of you and you gift it to somebody else, they'll probably enjoy it for a period of time. And then you'll get to enjoy it for a lifetime. So it's sort of the gift that keeps on giving for yourself, because anytime you're ever having a bad day, you're feeling some sort of way about yourself, looking in the mirror, you can go back and look at the photos and hopefully feel a new wave of confidence come over you because you remember that fun experience and that liberating thing that you did.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best thing that you can get out of it.
Oh, that was the other thing. How I noticed that you said you do like 4 shoots a week, so you're only doing like maybe one a day. How long do your shoots run?
Depends on the package. So my shortest one, my mini, would usually be about, in total, probably about 45 minutes. And my longest one is about 2 hours. So that's like all encompassing, like makeup and the shoot, the changing in between. I'm pretty quick. Like I like to be efficient. Yeah. And I find having my own space too, because I know it so well. I'm able to really get through things, and I know which shots will work best with everyone and that kind of thing.
Right.
So I really try not to overshoot. I used to do that a lot when I was first starting out.
That was my next question. Is like, are you a heavy button clicker or?
I mean, some photographers probably would still consider me a heavy button clicker, but I sort of like in between moments as well. So
Right.
I do probably overshoot in some way during some moments, but for the most part, for my studio work these days, like I would be pretty streamlined. So I would say I would get about, out of an hour, I'd get about 400 photos.
Oh yeah, that's pretty light.
Yeah, you think so? Okay, that's good.
I'm a heavy shooter.
Are you?
Yeah, I've decided I'm going to do an informal survey through these.
Okay, just to see how heavy you are.
Yeah, I'm learning that I shoot a lot. And I'm trying to pare it down too, but I think that is a carryover from the other styles of photography that I did.
And
before.
I don't think it really matters, you know, like if that's what works for you and like you get good photos out of it, then whatever. You just have to call through more 100 photos, whatever. Well, if that's what makes you feel comfortable and that's what makes you feel like you're getting the shots, then do that.
Yeah,
I just wear a camera quicker, but
I think it's that I enjoy it, and then like whenever I would shoot, you know, I'd book models. I'd be like, yeah, I'll shoot for as long as you want to keep posing. Like,
oh yeah.
It's a lot less work for me, and I'll be here all day.
How do you explain poses to people? Because I show poses, so like I demonstrate what I want people to do, and then sort of explain once they're in there. But for you, do you have or you demonstrate as well?
In any pose my models do or clients do, I can do.
Awesome, I love that.
I think I was thinking about doing that as my TikTok. I thought it would be quite fun.
You should. You honestly should.
Yeah, if I can do it, you can do it.
So. Yeah, there you go. I bet you have a great back arch.
I think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I demonstrate all the poses, and then like you said, make the adjustments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find the visual really, really helps people understand because otherwise, I don't know, I get tongue-tied sometimes when I'm trying to explain things. So once they're in there, it's way easier to adjust than to explain,
right?
Like verbally what I want them to do. So,
but and then like after the first couple, it's you're like, okay, it gets they get the flow of it. It's like we're always gonna have you arch your back. We're always gonna have you point your toes.
Yeah, totally. I tell them that in advance too. I'm like, you're gonna feel like it's starting to get repetitive, like the shapes. So then you'll probably start to get the hang of it, and I barely will have to pose you going forward. And they're like, I don't know about that, but then I always see it like halfway through, like the true them come out, and they're like, wait a second, I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah, okay.
I'm feeling myself now.
Yeah. And do you feel like how much like prep work do you do with your clients before you get started? Like for your 45-minute shoot, client comes in, is that your first time meeting them usually, or do you do
generally it is my first time meeting them? Yeah, if somebody requests a consultation in advance, by all means they can come in and meet me and see the studio and kind of get acquainted, but for the most part I think people are fairly acquainted with the space just based on what I post. So I have, when somebody books with me, I send out sort of an all-encompassing document. It has my contract, it has a pre-session questionnaire, optional model release, a full prep guide, basically telling them start to finish what it's going to be like. And the questionnaire, sometimes they fill it out in advance, but most of the time they don't. So then I have to get them to do it with me in person when they arrive. So it's about like 15 to 20 minutes of chat when they arrive, just so they don't have to like feel like they have to get naked right away or anything like that. We kind of get to know each other. Some people are more chatty than others. And then they sign the contract if they have to, and then we start going through outfit options. And I have I have a client closet that sometimes people use, but most of the time people bring their own stuff.
Yeah.
And they usually bring options. So then we kind of decide what they're going to wear and get them a little beverage, and then we get started after that.
Oh, and I saw that you have the exact opposite wardrobe policy. You're like, please limit the things you bring.
Yeah.
I like them to bring your whole closet. We'll choose when you get here.
Yeah, I have had experiences where people like just bring duffel bags of stuff, and personally I'm like, this takes too long. I need you to bring maximum 4 items. And like there's probably 4 that you like the most, and I always operate on the sort of policy, I guess. I'm like, don't wear anything that you don't feel like a 10 in. Like you want to put it on and feel 100% about the front, the back, the sides, everything. So if there's anything that you're like, but I don't like the butt on this one, then you're not wearing it. That's kind of how I see that. Because I don't like to have to hide parts of an outfit or anything. Like I just want you to be ready to go. Yeah. So yeah, I do tell people to limit what they bring so that they sometimes they still bring a lot of stuff though. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, I'm always like, bring everything. I'd rather have options, like, because you thought it looked good at home, and now today you just don't feel it. You're like, okay, you don't want to be stuck with. Yeah, you don't want to be stuck with something. I generally say, bring it, and like we're probably only going to get to 4 outfits, but I don't.
Yeah, my maximum is 3 outfits. So like my highest package is like up to 3 outfits, and I still say up to because, I don't know. I guess I just prefer it to be like super streamlined. So like the less like in between time we can get, the better for me anyway. And so most of the time, most people book a package where it's 1 outfit and the sheet set. And so it's like implied nude and 1 lingerie outfit. And that's perfect for me. Yeah. That's about an hour of shooting.
And it's like, I feel like you have systems. Do you feel like you're a process person in general, or you just...
Yeah. No, I definitely have control issues. But I have like an administrative background, so I think I'm really good at putting things together and organizing things. So the more organized it is, the more confident I feel about going into it. So I like to kind of just take full control over how things are going to go. And that way I can provide information to everyone in a way where they'll know exactly what to expect from me. And then there'll be no surprises kind of thing. Yeah. So I'm very open with people how it's going to go and how I feel about it.
And then your products, are you like an in-person salesperson, or do you just give them?
Yeah, no, yeah. I just have deliverables. So I have like deliverable limits essentially with my packages. And then a few of my packages include like photo books. So it's not like a full album. It's kind of like a cheaper version of an album. And then you can also purchase things like that from me. And then I just use a supplier for that. But but I haven't done the IPS yet. And I feel like I enjoy, I don't know, I guess I just enjoy not having to have like all these different appointments with people. I think that's what scares me away. And like, I think I'd be really anxious to do in-person sales. Oh, yeah? Like seeing in person what people think.
You don't want to be there when they look at their photos.
Like if I'm not in person and they send me like all the praise and everything, that's great. But then if they're I don't know. I guess maybe someday I'll move into that and I could probably make more money that way. But I'm also not sure if there is like the market here is ready for that. Like I feel like there's a certain limit to what people will pay here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just because it's so new and everything. So like we're still trying to build the value in the boudoir community here. So I think
Yeah.
maybe eventually I could do that, but for now I think everything has to be really streamlined for people to understand. Mm-hmm. What about you? Do you do IPR?
No, I'm thinking about it. I think I'm
Okay.
going to try it. Like I said, I for a long time I'm have a technical background. I'm actually a computer programmer by trade beforehand, so making the switch was always difficult for me.
Mm-hmm.
I got into photography late, and so I was well into my career before I
Okay.
discovered my love of photography, and so um, I'm only going full time now, and I think I'm going to try IPS, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, I haven't gotten it all worked out yet.
Yeah, I know. I feel like in a big city like Houston, like you'd be totally fine to do IPS because
Yeah,
there'd be lots of photographers who already do that. So I feel like it'd be more um, just more common. Where here, most people would do deliverables, so it
yeah,
wouldn't be like very new for someone to try that here. So people would be like, "What? I have to pay this much for this album?" Yeah. So maybe someday.
yeah,
But yeah, I think that I really like how the boudoir community, like the global community, is really like moving out of the traditional sort of glamour style. I think that
mm-hmm.
talking about shoes and like the thong on the stiletto style, like boudoir is really kind of going by the wayside, and I like that. I think
Yeah,
it's definitely opening up the market to like way more people because that style would really only attract like certain types of people and things like that. So I think
yeah,
everything's getting a lot more inclusive and like the whole niche is becoming more normalized, which is awesome.
yeah. That is one thing I've been excited about on the feature accounts is how many people I've been coming in from other countries. Like, right at first, it was I think the first country that exploded was Brazil. I got a lot of
Okay.
Brazilian photographers and models,
Yeah.
and now and then it was Eastern Europe was
Oh yeah.
big, and then
Mm.
and now it's French photographers and models. I'm getting a
Oh,
lot
I
of.
love that
Yeah.
Parisian vibe.
And then Australia has always kind of been
Oh God, yeah. That would
consistent.
be like
Yeah.
beach in Australia. I know. Would love to go there someday.
But yeah,
Autograph people.
just seeing the regional differences are
Mhm.
kind of interesting, and then like you said, the switch in tone and away from like what you would think of as traditional boudoir.
Yeah,
Has
for
been
sure.
really
You must get
interesting.
to see so much stuff because people would be tagging you all the time and awesome. Like you would just see
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah. It's it and it's definitely affected like my personal sensibilities and style. I think in some ways it hasn't helped in that now like I'm seeing such great work everywhere. I'm like, oh, my photos
Oh,
suck.
no.
But you know that after I get past that, it's also really inspiring to see
Yeah,
like
for sure.
different things and just have your eyes open to like you can do that too.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing to see what other people create. I used to like that about the Do More Photographers Facebook page, but when it was still active. And then I don't know if you're on it now, but Looks Like Film has one. Looks Like Film Bear.
I
They
haven't.
just It's like it looks like film BARE Bear. And
Okay.
it's basically the new Do More Photographers page on Facebook. And I think there's still only like under 10K people in it, but everyone's like such a good boudoir photographer
Yeah.
and lots of inspiration there. So that's where I would get my content. I don't
Oh, that
consume a whole lot on Instagram, so I
yeah,
mostly share.
That was another thing. Do you have any favorite artists that you follow? And that's not strictly limited to the boudoir. Any kind of.
I mean, I think gosh, she's in the US. I'm trying to think where it is, but you probably know her, Indian Boudoir. Yeah, she's one of my favorites. I think she was like very, very inspiring to me. Like, I think I followed her before I even started Boudoir, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, I love what she does, and like, she's more of a dark and moody style, but I think I liked her studio and just the vibe of it and everything like that. That's someone I really love, and there's a few actually photographers that are more local to me, and I'll give her a little shout out here. Her name is, I think it's Kaylin Molina. And she is one province over from me. And I'm pretty sure that's what her Instagram at is, Kaylin. And she is an incredible photographer. And she kind of does a little bit of boudoir and then kind of some studio, creative portraits, things like that. She's really into like double exposure and interesting things. So she's really good. She's one of my favorites. Yeah. It's fun because she's local too. There's not many of us.
Yeah. Do you find that is there like a photographer community that you hang out with or connect with?
There's I don't know, I'm kind of a loner to be honest. But there's definitely a photography community here. And I definitely connect with like a few people really, really well. And the odd time you'll meet up with people and things like that. But most people are in the whole weddings and families category. So I'm kind of like the odd one out in terms of like what I do. But there has been, a few people that I've mentored over the years, and somebody that I mentored recently, she just got her own studio. I don't think it's open yet, but she's going to be starting boudoir like in a studio. So that's going to be the first person with me. So I think over time, like more of a boudoir community will build up, but there's definitely some gems here, and it's very dense in terms of photographers, just not boudoir photographers. Lots and lots of family photographers here. Very PG.
Yeah. So how do you feel about like having new photographer coming in? Is that because I think that, and especially as a male photographer, people ask me about like competing, and it's like, like it's so personal, like everybody, it's because it's not the same, like you'll get wildly different photos going from different photographer.
Like I think I'm totally like all about community. I'm definitely not a competitor, not a competitive person really. And I think sometimes if somebody is a competitor in a way in terms of getting clients, I think that's actually really good for you because it encourages you to, I don't know, change and pivot and do things that will probably benefit you long term. Because otherwise, I think it's easy to sort of get stuck in your own way. But as long as like you're doing your own thing and you're putting your own spin on it, I think it's a really good thing to have other people coming in and trying it. So yeah, I'm definitely not a competitor. I like to be pretty low key, kind of in the shadows in a way.
Yeah, I feel that too. There's a big community here.
Yeah,
I think, I think it's just because it's a big city. There's a lot of people doing a lot of stuff. So, I would just like to thank you for coming and joining me and having a discussion. Would you please give out your website and Instagram one more time, just so that everybody can get in contact with you and see your amazing work?
I will for sure. And this has been amazing. Thank you so much for having me on. My Instagram handle is at the guest room, PEI. And my website is www.theguestroomsessions.com.
All right. Thank you, Kathleen. And I really enjoyed talking to you. I will be featuring more of your photos all day. other time.
Likewise, I can't wait.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And also, thank you so much for letting us share your photos. You're in the heavy rotation group.
I love that.
Yeah. No,
That makes me feel so special.
I do. I really love your work, and I'd share it more, but I got to spread the love.
Oh God, yeah.
So many.
You got to share all the other good work too. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it every time.
Right. Thank you again, and it's been great talking to you.
Likewise.
That's all for this episode of Best in Boudoir podcast. Thank you again for joining us. Please remember to like, subscribe, and give us 5 stars on every platform you find us on. We need your help to grow our community. This is the Best in Boudoir podcast. I'm Jamal Williams. Keep on creating.